Okay, so we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and we're talking about track presets, which are just a superset. Amazing situation here. And let me know that you're hearing this and that you can see all this and it's working the way you would expect. Let me check this over here. I think that should be down, and that should be what you're hearing right there. All right, that's probably much better over here on YouTube. So throw a chat in the throw a message in the chat since we're doing this live. We're going to be talking the track presets are a superset and an unbelievable big picture ability to save all sorts of details about a specific track and be able to use it any place you want. And I'm really blown away at how comprehensive they are. So Studio One has so many places where you can save a group of features and reuse them other places. Everything from templates to effects chains to effect presets. And now in version 6, track presets. Super powerful, super helpful, and something that most people aren't paying attention to. So Kendrick had a question about this and wanted to be able to save something, and here it is. So we'll talk about this. And of course, you can ask questions on both Facebook and YouTube. Jake, thank you. You can hear. Fantastic. Really appreciate that. And so some of the things are delayed a few seconds for me by the time I see them, but throw them in there as I go through this. And then what can happen is while I'm in the middle of it or at the end of it, I'll take some questions and answer them. And frankly, we're talking about Studio One. First, the topic we're talking about, but then anything that comes up about Studio One, happy to discuss with you. So what are track presets? Well, first thing, what are presets and where are they? When you're in the mix console, all these sets of effects can be bundled together into a chain. And you can take that, and there's a place here. Let me zoom in here where you can store an effects chain, and I have all sorts of effects chains, and that's super cool because you can reuse that on any track you want, and that works really well. In order, let's say you've set up a custom thing. I have one in there that if I want to sound like an old school radio, I have all the effects tuned in so that I can just record my voice, change my effects chain to old school radio, and then when I do that, I'll sound like I'm talking over a radio. And you could have one for all sorts of different things, and you could have your one that handles audiobooks and one that handles voiceovers for a certain client, or there's a lot of different applications for that kind of thing. I have auto ducking that automatically turns down the music when another track is talking. You can have all that stuff pre-set up in advance, and then when you want to use it, you can reuse that chain, and it makes life really easy. Well, that's at the effect level. Of course, almost everybody, most of you watching this know there's additional spots in here where within each utility I have some presets. Every effect I have presets, and therefore if I figure out if I figure out the de-esser on one voice or on my voice, then I can use that and apply that every place when I add the de-esser tool. And you can even set the default. So every time you apply the de-esser, it has your presets. But track presets are just more powerful in that they're a bigger picture. They're getting closer to what a template handles, but they're more granular than a whole template. So a template could have one track or 400 tracks, but a track preset applies to a single track, or this, I didn't understand this, a bunch of tracks. So watch this. So this track has some audio in it, and I can take this track and I can right click on it, and then I can just say, look at this, store track preset. Well, what does that mean? Well, when I do that, I'm going to say, this is a raw, and I'll call it track preset so that you can, and it has a little description here. Notice it says one audio track. So what the heck is it going to bring over with that track preset? Well, I'll tell you. So watch this. We take raw track preset, and we're going to choose OK here. And then I'm going to show this. The easy way to really see it is we'll go over to the start page, and I'm going to open another track, and I'm going to open a blank track just for fun, because when I have a blank track, then I get a whole different effect, because you can see I could start with a template that has nothing in it, and I can bring over a preset, a track preset that has all sorts of details in it. And when I do that, it's actually pretty interesting. So I'm going to, let's just start with total blank here. So this is total blank start. Trust me on that. Boom, but you'll see it. All right, now there's a nothing. And instead of putting in all sorts of details there, watch this. One click, I'm going to load a track preset. I'm going to say this one right here, and boom, it comes in. Now that I don't know if you noticed, but it has the right height. It has the right color. It also, behind the scenes, it's still this setup here. Oop, came up in my other monitor. Let me switch this over here. And now I would have to configure it so it looks the same as what my other one did. But what you'll notice here that's pretty interesting is that this ends up with the same exact track. Here's that track. Let's make sure we do this right here. See it right here. Okay, by the way, I got a bunch of tools on this for outputs because of the way I have the rest of my machine set up. But this is the track. It came back with the color. It comes back with all the tools that are on that: color, height, label. I don't know if it would always come in with raw there, but I think it even brings in that. And there are all my tools, and that is the same chain that I have in that other one. If I switched back to that, there, everything would match right there. Color. So if it's amazing all the little things it gathers up. And if you have an instrument, if you're doing MIDI, now most of the voiceover world, we're not doing that. But you could set up an instrument which has all sorts of settings, and it's going to bring them all over. It's just crazy, all the different things it gathers up. But now you can go to any other file. You also can even do things like in the same file. I'm going to go ahead and load a track preset. So I already had this track in here. But if I wanted a second one of those tracks, I can duplicate this one. I also can just add this here, and now it added it with no audio. It's armed like the other one was armed. It has all the details with it. And if I double click on it, you'll see, look at that. They're all the same. So color, sizing, the effects that are in it, some details about the routing that I'm not going to talk about. If you had sends, it'll duplicate the sends. It's gathering up a whole ton of information and details and bringing it over not only to another file, but I could go and now here's some real magic. This one I didn't understand at first. So I thought a track preset, an effects preset, for example, if I were in an effects preset, it applies to this effect. So I can have a mix tool, and then I can have another mix tool, and I can have the same preset for that available across both of those. So that's pretty interesting. What I didn't understand about track presets are they can have multiples. What does that mean? Well, look at this. I have a track here that has, well, let me show it to you. In the background, this one has an auto duck, green track. So I could take this track, and this track, and I'm going to take 3 of them and create a track preset, which I thought was singular, one track. That's what I thought at first. Store track preset. Nope. This is going to be called super set of tracks, because that's a great name. And I could put it in its own folder, but it has 3 audio tracks, and that's just the default description. By the way, if I don't like that, I could say, my amazing set of stuff. Okay, I hope you come up with something by it. Oh, and this is just an aside. Use something descriptive here. While it seems obvious what I'm doing today, imagine if you accumulate 25 of these, or 4 of them, or 6 of them. Sometimes I cannot remember what in the world that's like. My name might be short. I put a decent description in there. It really, really helps later down the road. So take a second while you're doing it. It's easy. You know why you're doing it and what it applies to actually put in a good description and a good name. Put those in. Sometimes my description will have things like, at the end of it, I've adopted this lately, where this says January 2024. I will actually give what it's for and a month and year. And I just found that saves me a bunch of grief later, because I end up going, well, which one's newer? Which one's older? And while there is a way to figure that all out later, why not just do it now? You add a little bit more now, and then I say, boom. So now I could switch over to this other thing here, which I call the file, and I right click on it. And with that, I can load a track preset. And now here's my super set of tracks. and I choose OK, and boom, I got all 3 of those puppies. Okay? All 3 came in right there, and that is a cool thing when that happens, that I have all 3 of them right at once. And if I look behind the scenes and we go into the mix console, let me get rid of all this here. I don't want to see all this stuff here. There is that auto duck I was talking about. There's the same limiter that was on the yellow track. So each of those tracks came in with all of their effects, which means I can take subsets. So I can have one master file that had, say, and an example, you had 7 tracks that you were using in book 1, and you realize, okay, I can package up, I can do them in groups of 5. Now I can have 5 tracks at a time, and I put 5 in, and if I want another 5, I add 5 more, and they're all pre-configured exactly the way you like them. And you can just keep adding them 5 at a time, 2 at a time, 10 at a time. Whatever you think is the right unit of tracks, you can do that. And it's like 2 clicks away in order to get, because look at this, 1 click, and then I'm sorry, 3 clicks, sorry, 3 clicks away. I'll learn to count as I mature here. And as long as you have your set, then you could do that where with 3 clicks, you can go ahead and get 1 track, 4 tracks, 42 tracks, whatever makes sense in your use case, okay? I think it's a great feature. That is not everything about them. They're very handy. And I do think, in general, people don't realize how much depth Studio One has. And therefore, when you understand the depth that it has, and you don't need to understand all of it, you can get these things like, so I make templates for people with my courses, and they have all this stuff all pre-done for them. What does that mean? Studio One is easier than using most other tools, because if you have a template set up for the task you're going to do, life becomes super simple because you don't have to think about much. You come in and you record because all the setup work is front loaded. And that's a great thing, to have everything already pre-done for you, and you can do it yourself and save it as a package. You can create subsets and save them as packages, or you can get these packages pre-made, which is how, if I want pizza dough, I can go to Trader Joe's and get some pizza dough that I have to spread it out on the pan and bake it. I can get, or I can get a pizza dough mix, or I can buy flour and make it all myself. And if I kept it in containers, then I could bake some pizza doughs later. So this whole process allows you to have your own templates that are pre-set up, or templates plus track presets, plus effects presets, plus what are they? Chains, module chains. It's just crazy how much of this stuff is available to us, and it makes our life easier because we set it up. And our day-to-day use, it's easy. It's not that complicated, because what we're doing, we're recording and we're exporting, and the rest of it's minimized. Okay, so let me look for questions here, see if anybody's throwing any questions there in the chat. So there's the one for that. And let me see. Oh, hey, Tina, good to see you there. Thank you. And I do have to refresh these things. How do I refresh this one? I don't know. Oh, I know why. I'm going to refresh that, reload that one. And then, oh, Colette, hey, the Jumpstart is great. Templates are so helpful. Learning it step by step. Yeah. Thank you, Colette. I hope that helps other people too. By the way, all this stuff I designed because my wife didn't, she's amazingly smart. She's homeschooled 5 kids. She's forgotten more than I've ever known about 100 different subjects. She's not really excited about any of the tech. She just wants to perform and export. And she doesn't want to have to do this stuff. That doesn't imply, it does not imply that you are dumb or stupid because you don't know all the tech stuff. I don't know a bunch of things about my car. I don't know how the air fryer works. I have an idea. I mean, I looked at it and I go, oh, okay, I see. It's got a little heating element and a fan, but I don't know the details, and I don't care. I'm going to use my air fryer, which we just got for Christmas from our kids, to cook food, and as long as it works, I'm eternally curious. So I like to know how things work. Do I care? No, it's a curiosity thing. So I like knowing, but does it make any difference? No, I don't. By the way, do you know how your microwave works? Exactly. Do you know how it cooks food? I don't either. I actually understand the principle. There's these little waves that do this thing, and it heats up the molecules. They create friction and heat, and okay, big deal. Yes, I do understand some of the basics at a little deeper level than that explanation. But it's just because I like physics, not because it makes any difference for me cooking. And I don't understand the microwave. I certainly don't understand the Instapot. I do understand a little bit about a convection oven, but so what? That doesn't make me a great chef. Understand it now. If I were going to become a world-class chef, yeah, I'd want to understand how a convection oven works and how it affects different things. I don't really need to know how it works. I need to know the effect of it. And that's kind of the same with all this audio. You don't need to know it all. You need to know enough to get your job done and get recording and get exporting and finishing your work and sounding great. But the details in between, I don't know how the tires, how does the air go in the tire? I kind of know. I don't need to know. All right. So, Michael, Music in Motion. Hey, Don, good to see you there. Do I keep different styles of presets for different types of genres? Well, yeah, I do. I actually keep different types of templates for different types of things where I have an audiobook template, I have a podcast, I have a voiceover, I have a template set up that's raw. I have one, there was something I was doing that was a special one. So I have a tendency to keep them as templates. Now, I have to admit, within that, if I'm in one of these files, then you will find behind the scenes, this actually is based on a chain. So yes, I have multi-levels of those for each genre, each type. Voiceover is going to be different than audiobooks, but they're all related. So you start with one and you build out from there, or you get the templates, and I've got them. If I'm working something that, for example, a voiceover could have a track that is set up for music. And one of the things that people don't really realize is that when they're working on one of my templates that is set up for doing audiobooks, at first they think that the audiobooks don't have music. Well, what I do know is this: 90% of the audiobooks or 95% of the audiobooks are not going to have music, but a subset of audiobooks will have music. And therefore, what I do in my audiobook ones is, just from a clutter point of view, I'm going to just call this AB, audiobook, and I have a hidden track that is sitting back behind the scenes. If someone were working a children's book, then with a couple clicks, they can unhide the music track that would be that they would be potentially using for a children's book where we have background music. And there are some types of books that have music, but most don't, so I'll keep that track hidden. On the other hand, if I knew I was working a voiceover is about 10 times more likely to have music. And so by default, I've set up the voiceover track where the music track is there, but it is by default showing. So I kind of go both ways with that. I have defaults and presets, and I have sets of chains that are set up for different things. But for me, most of the time, everything's done at the template level, and it's the music track that's sitting there on a voiceover that's already ready to go. It's muted and ready to rock and roll, because that's more likely in this case. I tend to have reduced clutter. Sometimes there'll be hidden tracks because Studio One not only has all these presets, but since you can hide tracks and mute them and disable them, on a more complex projects, I can have all sorts of things that are hidden, and then when I need them, I unhide them. So it's all front loaded. Matter of fact, it's amazing how simple Studio One can appear, as simple as one of these DAWs that only allows single tracks. It can do all that, but then when you need more power, you have it. And I always think of that, if I'm getting on the freeway, it's more fun in a vehicle that if I needed to get in front of a truck, if I'm merging on to a freeway, if you have power, there are times where that's easier than putting on the brakes and going behind the truck. It's nice having the power. I mean, I can drive either way. I live in LA. We can't go that fast anyway. But when you're going someplace, to have a vehicle that has more power and not use it, hey, that's cool. That makes it easier to do some things. You can do it all sorts of different ways. So there's not one approach, but I do have different settings and different, we have to meet different goals for audiobook stuff as we are going to for voiceover. So anytime I can, I pre-make things. I meal plan in advance, or meal prep. That's what they call it. Some of these people cook on the weekends, or they cook on a Sunday, and then they put them in little packages, and then all week long they go get their little package out. That's how I consider that's how you want your DAW set up. You meal plan for the whole week or the month, and once you have yours for each genre, then you add, as opposed to starting from scratch each time. So let me see if there are any other questions about that. So we got that there. So yes. Um, so yeah, so Tina, if you have any other questions, throw them my way, okay? But yes, that works great. And Happy New Year back to you. I missed that earlier, okay? I do have to refresh here just to make sure I catch all those. Larry, Jake, Colette, expand comments. Yes, let's do that. Okay, so that looks like that's there. So if you have other questions, if you have something, a topic that I should be covering here, let me know. Two commercials. Be sure to join Heller every Tuesday for the Heller Barnes. We do everything about audiobooks. Ask us anything. And now I have a new one called Tech Simplified. It's a sister group to this, and I'm doing that every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. Yes, I did that math in my head. 3 hours time differential there. And that's something new that I just started last week. So if you're watching this on YouTube, yeah, be sure to go check out. It's in the live stuff, but I'm doing it weekly right now, every Tuesday. And maybe if you're watching this 6 months in the future, maybe I change days, but it'll still be going. So check out the 2 live events that I'm doing every single Tuesday right now, where we've got one on audiobooks, one just on the VO Tech. So that's home studio software, hardware, everything, microphones, interfaces, everything related around that stuff that's not software specific. The Studio One group's just for the Studio One related issues, but we all know this. You have a computer, it has hard drives. You need new drives at some point. You need an interface or a mic, and interfaces and mics. And so the VO Tech Simplified is where I talk about all that. And of course, if you're not in the RX group, check that out as well. All right, let me see if there's any other questions. I'm seeing projects calling for dual narrators. How would I handle two? Yes, two narrators working remotely are a pain in the pain. Most of the time, by the way, most people are not going to record at the same time. So I do have a technique that I'm working on for that. I'll outline that in another one. Be sure to send that suggest to me directly. So, but I have to have a better organizational system, so I'm going to work on that because please be sure you get that question to me outside of the comment here so that I put that on my list. I do have a list of topics, and that makes sense to me because I do have more and more people doing that, and I have a technique for it, and there are some really cool things you can do. I rarely would, because I've done so many with my wife and I, where we're going back and forth doing uh, usually commercial related stuff. We have done audiobooks that way, but we have the luxury of being at the same location. And there are some things, if we have to go back and forth with dialogue, we'll sit in the same room and do that. And then if we're doing things that are one chapter each, then she does not want to sit when I record for good reason. It takes me about 4 times longer to do anything than it takes her. She'll have way less revision. She has to sit there while I cycle through something 6 times to say it. And she says that the first time it totally nails it. No one knows when we're done that it took me 6 takes. All right, it sounds fine, but it definitely takes me longer. And if you're sitting there with another narrator and they're struggling with a sentence or a phrase or a paragraph, it's more than twice as much. That's my wife. It'll totally frustrate her because I could take 4 times longer. So if you're going to sit there now, can you do it? Yes, you can. But if you do that, that's an interesting thing. So I'll talk about an alternate technique that I've worked with a couple people on. And I think it's pretty cool. And, Studio One does have collaboration features. There are musicians that collaborate from multiple locations. That requires the pro version. It requires having Studio One Plus. There are some things there. But I have a way of doing it where you can sit and do your part, and then the other narrator can sit and do their part, and you can work together on a book, and that's becoming more and more common. So yes, beat me up on that. It's a little more complicated, so I have to figure out whether I'm just going to do a whole video on that, or I'll do a live session on it and show off some of those and give you some ideas. Okay, so that's a great question. Are you fitting in some pickleball with all these things? Yes, I am. I have by the way, I tell everyone in the voiceover business they should have a coach. Well, what do you think I have for the pickleball's a hobby of mine. I'm for those who I might be a 3-5 on my way to I'd like to be a 5. I'd like to be able to play some tournaments just because I love at age 63 the mental and physical elements of it in terms of keeping myself younger. I can't keep myself young, but younger. And so I've had 2 coaching sessions so far. I've purchased 4 as a bundle. So I have 2 more to go for this bundle, and I'll purchase a bundle after that. It blew me away. I'm a pretty good learner. I've watched 100 YouTube videos, and darn if both the first 2 sessions, the little things that he pointed out have saved me a whole bunch of building of bad habits are just crazy. So like I tell everyone else, I have my money where my mouth is. I am studying, and I watch 100 YouTube videos. I get as much free stuff, but there's nothing like an outside point of view to accelerate my learning. And just little things that he has shown me almost instantly within the first 15 minutes of us getting together kind of made me laugh when I got back in my car when we were done. Just an outside perspective is worth it, and giving me some tips. And so I'm learning faster than most of the people around me, but there's still time, effort, and money, and a lot of practice. The same stuff that we all do for this business is the same thing that happens in pickleball or tennis or learning racquetball or learning to play anything. And we all need mental and physical stuff happening to continue to grow across our life. And right now that's my other world. So I'm going tonight to do some practice, and tomorrow morning very early I have a practice drilling partner who we're trying each other out to see if we like the way we work together. And so, in other words, I'm doing exactly what I tell everybody else to do. I'm investing time and money because I would like to be good at it. So if you're doing this and you'd like to be good at it, I recommend you take courses, that you have coaches. I'm doing the same thing in another venue, and it's always the same process for me. Hope it works out well for you. All right. So other questions. Aaron says, for into macro templates, so the scenario where you use noise reduction as an insert. Um, Rarely. First off, you can, but noise reduction is highly dependent upon what's going on in real time. And if it does too much and I get that into my recording, and then I have no recourse. So for me, I prefer all that stuff afterward. Plus, it's faster ultimately because I'm running as a batch in RX anyway. So if you're running batches, you can save the time. If you run it in real time and you overdo it, that causes a problem. Plus, as an engineer, depending if you have a dynamic one, a lot of times I can tell that it's working because I can see it coming in and out based on what's going on. So if your stuff is going to people that aren't going to be hypercritical, if you're not going to publishers, there are cases for real world denoising. Real world. Oh boy, that is going to hit my tongue twister thing as soon as I'm done. I do keep a master list of tongue twisters and things I stumble over. Real world. Real world, real world, real world, real world. Okay, I know you wanted to see me practice my tongue twisters. That's a tough one for me. And that's going to hit my list. You'll see. But it just works out that I am going to not be doing the real time. Thank you, Lisa. That's a much better way of saying it instead of real world. Real time, real time, real time is correct. If I'm doing that, then it's going to end up where too much is going to be a problem and I can't undo it. So I don't record with it in real time. If I'm doing live things, I have on OBS that's happening here, then real time. When I'm on with Heller, we have real time denoising going on in that situation because I'm not going to go and re-edit 3 streams for that kind of live show. So I will use it in those cases, but nobody has an expectation if I'm live with you right now for my audio to be perfect because there's a bunch of moving parts between me and you, and I don't have control over them. I don't have control of your playback. I don't have control of the internet. I don't have control of YouTube or Facebook, and they both do their own compression stuff that's happening, and there's dropouts in the internet stuff. So the expectations there are one thing. If I'm going to do professional audio where I'm delivering it to a client and I overuse that stuff, then it's a different world. So that's why post-production is great. I can manage it, and if I got something back from a client, maybe I messed it up, I didn't even notice. I get it to the client, and they come back with me of what the heck. I still have all the originals untouched before the noise reduction, and I can apply more, less, and as needed, or spot clean something if that's needed. That's very rare for me anymore, but it happens if I get something from somebody else and they were recording outdoors. They're recording a soundstage. They're recording in a situation that is not their home studio where they have control over things. Yeah, that's different. So, as a rule, I would do it afterward. We have more control. We can be more precise. We can be more transparent. But there are a few use cases. So, nothing's absolute. And if you're going to ACX and it's your own production and you have a rights holder, many of those don't have great ears. So, you can get away with all sorts of things. I don't like getting away with things if I don't need to, and I can do it just as fast another way. Batch processing is your friend and actually is faster than most of the time having it applied. Details matter. So I skipped a bunch of details there. So I hope that helps. And if you have other questions or comments, be sure to ask in the Studio One group. I have to go here for today. And Colette, I am going to do some pickleball practice today. So I work on it almost every day for small amounts, sometimes large amounts, but most days I'll get a little bit in that. If we want to be good at anything, we are going to invest time, possibly some money, definitely a bunch of effort, or we have almost no chance to win at any situation. So voiceover is the same as pickleball. You have to put in some time. You have to put in your reps. You have to practice, and then I've been taking private coaching since I've been 14. So that's something that I don't see it ever stopping. And I'm just blown away. I thought I was kind of really killing it because I watch so much on the subject as far as watch pros play and watch their training sessions on YouTube. But I still don't see some things that I was doing wrong, or not. I don't know if it's wrong, but just I didn't see some things that I could refine by having somebody, watch me and work with me interactively. And I've been really impressed with the gentleman that I'm using. It's just been wild. Cracked me up too. A couple of them, it's like, oh, that's interesting. That's fascinating, and so much better in such a short period of time. All right. You guys have a fantastic day, and we'll talk to you on the wires. You guys have been so generous. Be sure to watch VO Tech Simplified tomorrow, every Tuesday, and check out the Heller Barnes every Tuesday as well. YouTube channel has those live things coming up. Check it out. You guys have a great day. See you later. Bye.